The day was already hot and buzzing with the angry hum of machinery when Jesse Cooper wiped the sweat from his brow and reached for a wrench. His garage, tucked between a crumbling overpass and an old gas station on the edge of town, wasn't much to look at. The signage was faded, and the walls were plastered with rust and time. But inside, miracles happened. Not the flashy kind you read in magazines, but quiet, honest ones made with grit, patience, hands that knew the soul of broken things. Jesse had lived most of his life fixing what others tossed away. A man of few words and fewer complaints, he had earned a reputation as the whisperer of machines. Cars, bikes, even antique coffee grinders, he gave them all a second life. Yet nothing about that Wednesday morning prepared him for what was about to roll through his garage doors. It started with the roar of an expensive Engina, sleek black Escalade pulling up into his dusty lot. That alone was strange. Jesse's customers usually drove in on fumes and duct tape. He watched, cautiously curious, as the back door opened and a woman stepped out, tall, poised, dressed in a designer suit that didn't belong anywhere near his shop. She was elegance wrapped in exhaustion. Her sunglasses were too big for her delicate face, but not big enough to hide the tears she'd been crying. And then came the girl. A soft whir filled the silence as a wheelchair descended from the back of the SUV. Seated in it was a young girl no more than 9 or 10, with long black hair and eyes so wide they looked like they had captured the stars. She didn't speak. She didn't smile. She just stared at the cracked floor of Jesse's garage like it was the moon. The woman cleared her throat. "Are you Jesse Cooper?" "I am," Jesse said, wiping his hands on a rag. "Can I help you?" She hesitated, clutching her purse, as though it contained her last sliver of hope. "I was told you fixed the impossible, ." Jesse arched a brow. "That's a mighty big promise. Who told you that?" "My driver. His name's Luis. He said you once fixed an engine using nothing but scrap and a spoon." Jesse almost smiled. "That's an exaggeration. I had a fork, too." She didn't laugh. Her lips trembled instead. She walked around to the back of the wheelchair and gently pushed the girl forward. "This is my daughter. Ilara. She hasn't walked in 4 years." Jesse looked at the girl again. Saw past the silence, the stillness. There was fire in her eyes. Storm held and paused. "We've tried everything," the woman continued. "Doctors, specialists, robotic exoskeletons. Every time we think we're close, something fails. This latest chair, $150,000, broke down 3 days after we brought it home. The manufacturer wants us to wait 2 months for repairs." "And you don't want to wait," Jesse said. She shook her head, eyes shining. "No, she has one more shot. A therapist. A new program. But she needs that chair to move. She needs it to even try. Please help us." Jesse knelt beside the chair, inspecting its wheels and joints. It was a masterpiece of tech-sleek carbon fiber frame. Servo motors built for terrain navigation, AI assistance for posture correction. And yet the machine was lifeless. Whoever designed this, he muttered, built it like a spaceship. But sometimes all a ship needs is a real mechanic. Ilara looked at him, barely blinking. "Can you fix it?" She whispered, Jesse looked her straight in the eyes. "I'll try, but I'm not going to promise what I can't deliver." Trying, her mother said, voice cracking, is more than we've had in a long time. Her name was Marianne Hale. Billionaire tech mogul. It's one of Forbes' top women in AI. But none of that power mattered here. She was just a mother fighting for her daughter's future. Jesse rolled the chair into his shop like it was a sacred object. The rest of that day dissolved into silence and soldering, into sparks and stubborn bolts. The problem, he discovered, was a short-circuited Neuralink sensor, something no average mechanic would dare touch. Jesse didn't just touch it, he rewired it by hand, bypassed the fried circuits, and even carved a new stabilizer out of an old Harley gear. He didn't sleep that night. And when morning came, he finally rolled the chair out into the sun. Asterisk, Marianne and Alara were waiting. Asterisk, it's working, Jessie said simply. Asterisk, Alara's fingers trembled as she reached for the controls. The whir returned this time with life. The chair responded smoothly to her touch, its wheels gliding across the gravel. Like it was silk, Marianne burst into tears. But Jessie wasn't done. One more thing, he said. He bent down, reaching beneath the chair, and clicked a hidden panel. Small hinge released. Asterisk. What's that? Marianne asked. A surprise, Jessie said. With a small mechanical sound, a hidden support system. Extended mechanized bars designed to help lift the user into a standing position, stabilizing with pressure assist on the legs. It wasn't in the original build. Jessie had added it himself. Asterisk, Alara looked scared. Jessie nodded gently. Asterisk, do you want to try? Asterisk. Her tiny hands gripped the sides of the chair. She nodded. Asterisk slowly, painfully. The lift began to rise. Asterisk, Alara's legs wobbled. Marianne gasped, stumbling forward, but Jessie held her back. Let her, he whispered, and then she stood, unsteady, fragile, but standing. Her legs didn't hold long. After a few seconds, she collapsed back into the chair. But her eyes, those star-like, eyes lit up with something even brighter than hope. Asterisk, I felt it, she said, voice trembling. I really felt it. Marianne sank to her knees, sobbing. Jessie just stood there quietly, arms folded. I don't know how to thank you, Marianne cried. You just did, Jessie replied. The sun dipped behind the trees. Alara looked up at Jessie and said softly, You fixed more than a chair. Asterisk and Jess. As the man of silence finally smiled. The day Alara Hell stood on her feet, though, for only a few seconds, something changed in the rhythm of the world. Jesse Cooper felt it deep in his chest. The sight of that fragile girl barely held. Up by the system he'd improvised from a mix of motorcycle parts, tractor gears, and the gut instinct of a man who fixed machines like they were people, stayed with him long after she and her mother drove away.
Us.
It echoed in the silence of his shop. It hummed in the ticking clock and the smell of soldered wires. Jesse knew something else was coming, and he was right. Marianne returned the very next morning. This time no Escalade, no chauffeur, just her, behind the wheel of a dusty sedan she'd probably never driven herself before. She stepped out, looking more human than he'd ever seen, her hair slightly messy, dark circles under her eyes, but a kind of fire in her face that made Jesse set down his wrench immediately. She stood for 23 seconds today, Marianne said, her voice trembling not from fear, but from joy. And she asked if she could come see you. Jesse looked toward the back seat, and sure enough, Alara was there. The girl was beaming not just with excitement, but with something Jesse hadn't seen before, pride. She rolled herself out without assistance, operating the chair like it was an extension of her own body. Jesse crouched beside her. Heard, You're getting stronger, Alara nodded. I stood without the bars today, just for a moment, but I stood. Jesse smiled. It's all it takes, 1 second more each day. From that moment on, it became a ritual. Every morning, Marianne and Alara would arrive at Jesse's shop. And every day, Jesse made improvements, tweaks to the frame, adjustments to weight distribution, a new shock-absorbing plate so Alara could ride over gravel without jarring her legs. But it wasn't just about the chair anymore. Jesse was building something more. Hybrid exosuit frame hidden inside the wheelchair's body, crafted to strengthen Alara's posture, muscle response, and resistance training. He taught her how to use tools, how to solder and fix things alongside him. She laughed when grease smeared her cheeks. Marianne watched her daughter come alive again, and with every passing hour, the wall between billionaire and mechanic faded, until all that was left was a mother and a man fighting for the same miracle. Then came the setback. One afternoon, while testing a newer prototype of the assisted lift mechanism, Something snapped in the servo. Ilara dropped hard. Not enough to injure, but enough to scare. Marianne screamed and ran to her. Jesse froze at himself surging in his chest, but Ilara just looked up at him, rubbed the side of her hip, and said, "Let's fix it better." Jesse blinked. "You're not mad?" "It's not failing," she said. "It's learning like me." And that single sentence became the new blueprint. Over the next 6 days, Jesse and Ilara worked together non-stop. She learned to use a drill. He taught her how current works. She learned balance. He taught her how gravity is just another thing you learn to argue with. Marianne stayed late, bringing food, holding light fixtures while Jesse worked, even sweeping up the shop at night. The wealthy CEO who once lived in a world of polished marble and virtual assistants was now covered in oil and duct, tape-hand, loving it. Then one night it happened. Jesse's final creation. He'd taken parts from a decommissioned military drone, combined it with a child's bike frame and a stabilizing brace he designed from scratch. The final chair no longer looked like a wheelchair. It looked like something from the future, lightweight, compact, armored, but graceful. And beneath it, hidden in the joints, was the true masterpiece. A mechanical standing harness that supported Ilara's core, corrected her posture, and applied micropulses to stimulate her muscles as she moved. On the 7th morning, before the sun rose, Jesse woke them early. "You ready?" asked Ilara. She nodded. He rolled the new chair into the center of the garage. She climbed in like she was mounting a rocket. Jesse activated the core. A soft hum filled the air. Slowly, the machine elevated her upright, more stable, more poised than ever before. Jesse stepped back. "Now try taking a step." Marianne held her breath. Ilara's foot moved. First, a shuffle. Then another. The chair shifted into assisted walk mode, guiding her weight as her legs took over. 1 step. 2. Then 3. Her hand hovered above the control lever and no longer depending on it. Her legs were doing the work. Marianne broke into sobs. She didn't cover her face. She let it all out. Like years of fear and guilt were dissolving with each shaky step her daughter took across the floor. Lotta walked toward her. Walked not. Rolled. Not hovered. Walked. She threw herself into her mother's arms, and the two of them collapsed to the floor, laughing and crying and gasping between each breath. Jesse looked away, pretending to be busy, but his eyes were wet too. "You did it," Marianne whispered to her daughter. "No," Ilara said, looking at Jesse. "We did." Later that day, Marianne asked Jesse to come outside.
Nice.
She handed him a check. Blank. "Name your price," she said. Jesse looked at it, then at her. "You already paid Min Hope." She tried to argue, but he cut her off. "I don't want money. I want to keep building this. For other kids, for families who don't have $150,000. To throw at a failed chair, Marianne smiled. "Then let's do it together." From that moment forward, Cooper Mobility was born. Marianne funded the first prototype lab, right behind Jesse's garage, turning his little workshop into a beacon for parents who had been told no too many times. Kids from across the country arrived with broken chairs, broken dreams, and left with fire in their legs. Ilara became the face of the movement. Her story went viral. News outlets picked it up. The mechanic who taught a girl to walk again. Jesse, as always, didn't care for the cameras. But when one young mother, holding her trembling son, in her arms whispered, "You're our miracle, Jesse," understood that some stories are bigger than him. And this story, your story, if you're watching this, is about how hope can grow in the unlikeliest of places. It can grow in rust, in grease and silence. It can grow in a broken wheelchair, when someone refuses to give up. And if this story moved you, you believe that real miracles are built, not bought, then help us spread this message. Click that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Share this video with someone who needs a reason to believe again. Because somewhere out there, another child is waiting for their miracle. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be the one who helps them take their first step. Asterisk.